Nuclear intelligence is not just for government agencies anymore. Self-appointed watchdogs are finding creative ways to foil regimes that pursue atomic weapons. With us today is Mr. David Schmerler, part of a team at the James Martin Center for Non-Proliferation Studies. He goes by the nickname Geolocation Jesus. Good afternoon, sir. Tell me, before everything, I'm curious to know, where does this nickname come from?
Oh, okay. Well, between 2016 and 2017, North Korea was increasing the frequency and cadence of missile testing. And when the North Koreans will launch a missile, Kim Jong-un would often be there, and they would show videos and pictures and whatnot, but they would never say where the activity happened. So one of the things that I got really good at was figuring out where Kim Jong-un was anywhere in the country whenever they showed images. So I got pretty quick at it, and then it just became a nickname that stuck.
Nice. So tell me, how do you operate? How does this thing works at all?
So what we do, at least in my job specifically, is we take state-produced propaganda and documents talking about certain types of activity related to WMD testing and production. And we try to fuse that data with satellite imagery to figure out where in various countries this type of activity is happening. And once we figure out where this activity is happening, we can continue to monitor it to see if there are any noticeable changes. And from any changes that we observe, we can publish reports that are accessible to the public, and we can keep everyone informed as to the state of various programs across the world.
Give me an example of material information that you've found that we weren't aware of before.
So one of the things with our field is, as long as we find something and we can vet it to a certain degree of confidence, we'll publish it online. Nothing we do is secret. So it's kind of hard to talk about things that you guys don't know about yet, because we publish most of the work that we find.
Who are your clients at all?
Everyone. I mean, a lot of our work goes out onto Twitter, goes out to various news agencies like CNN or NPR, the Washington Post. It's accessible for everyone.
And what's the goal? To find out everything that is possible to know about the proliferation of nuclear weapons?
Right. So what we want to do is create a more and better informed public so they understand the issues that are happening. If you turn on the TV and someone says North Korea is or isn't doing something, what we can do is we can analyze that and throw out our take or interpretation on these events so the public has a better understanding as to the state of a program as best as we can determine.
And how reliable, if at all, are, for example, reports that you read from North Korea?
So that gets a bit complicated because it's propaganda. So clearly there are lots of exaggerations made, but I think there are general truths at the core of certain message and testing activity that talk about North Korea developing more advanced missile systems or continuing to maybe enrich or develop nuclear material.
And on the contrary, can we believe Washington's reports vis-a-vis North Korea, or they have, they want to maybe paint the picture in brighter colors?
So that's one of the things that I think makes our work very valuable is we try to approach it with as little to no bias as possible. When we hear reports about certain types of programs around the world coming from politicians, they are trying to work deals and work diplomatic angles to get certain objectives done. It doesn't necessarily reflect the raw intelligence that their information is being built upon. So what we're trying to do is fill that gap for the public.
Obviously, you do not deal only with North Korea, and as you well know, we in Israel are mostly interested with Iran. What can you tell us about what's going on in Iran? Because after the U.S. pulled from the nuclear deal, it seems that the Iranians are going slowly but surely towards trying to achieve, or at least do new things that were banned a year ago, looking at the bomb.
So I think that just my own personal interpretation is that the Iranians are slowly turning up the pressure to try to remind everyone who is in the deal still that they could do something, but they're not. So they're trying to bring people back to the table and reestablish closer to the deal that they had that the U.S. pulled out of. On my end of things, because I work a lot with satellite imagery, and some of the more technical nuclear work is a bit hard to observe. I can tell you that Iran has been working on developing larger and more complex solid fuel rockets and missiles, but that's the state of their program at the moment.
But still, we see them, getting more and more material and being more and more up front, looking at Washington, looking at the Gulf, looking even at Israel. And one might think that if they look at Pyongyang, maybe it's better for them to become a nuclear superpower and not to be good guys.
Right, so that's a serious risk that we run, especially with the negotiations with North Korea, is how does our interaction, at least from the American perspective, change the way the Iranians look at the calculus that is their nuclear program. So that is a serious question. But at the moment, I'm not quite sure which direction the Iranians are moving in.
Tell me something, the guys in Vienna with the International Atomic Agency, they like you, they do not like you because you sit on their tail, I believe.
Well, I certainly hope they like me. I really value and appreciate all the work that the IAEA and the CTBTO are doing. I think our work kind of complements each other. It's a very one-way conversation because we don't get a lot of talking going our way. Since we're kind of publishing things out into the public, I certainly hope that our work is useful. But, yeah.
So to conclude at all, what should we expect? What's on your desk these days? Anything new, anything surprising, anything frightening?
Right. Well, North Korea has been increasing activity at their satellite launch center. They're talking about tests that they've been doing, but they haven't quite explained in detail what they're testing. We can see that activity happening in satellite imagery. It's just we can't, again, also kind of verify to a degree that I feel comfortable talking about right now as to the exact type of testing that they're doing. But their engine test stand has been very active within the past week and a half.
Mr. David Shmelo, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. Thanks. Keep up with that magnificent work you're doing. Thank you very much.